All right, here we are. Okay, everybody. Hey there, this is Nikki Burnett and Gabrielle Grandel, both of us functional nutritionists, and this is Functional Friday. So we wanted to talk a little bit and try to get through this a little bit quicker than we typically do. But we want to talk about the current V, we're using the term V, which is also a biologic, and how it can potentially affect our epigenome. And so we want to start this with a definition that we found that makes it easy to understand what the epigenome is, and then we'll go from there. So if you don't, so just so you know, we have our genome, right? So this is what we're made of, or how we're, it's our, our skin color and, those things that don't typically change, our eye color. And then we have our epigenome, which is the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. So understanding that everything that we do, from food, stress, lifestyle, and environmental toxins, all of these things, including drugs, V's or biologics. And remember what we're saying with V's. V's are the biologics that were just released to help to treat this virus that we're all dealing with. So that's where we wanted to start. Gabrielle?
Yeah, so, everything that we're doing with our clients and what we're trying to promote is getting to the root of the problems and why we might be expressing health, or why we might be expressing illness or disease. And so we wanted to just remind everybody that our choices are super powerful, because they help our genes either turn on for health or turn down for disease and illness. And so anything that we're putting in our body, in or around our body, is going to impact our DNA and impact our biochemistry. And so we wanted to share how the new V's that are out, just like the other group of V's that have come before them, none of these are tested for carcinogenic or mutagenic potential, or for infertility. And you can find this in any of the V inserts in section 13.1, which is labeled as non-clinical toxicology. You can see that they are, that none of them have been tested. And this mRNA V, the mRNA Vs that are out, because they are using mRNA, they, inevitably will affect our DNA and our biochemistry. And one of the newer things with this current V and this mRNA classification was that there were a couple of doctors that were concerned, and their names are Dr. Wolfgang Woodard, who's an epidemiologist out of Germany, and Dr. Michael Yeadon, who is the former vice president and chief scientist of allergy and respiratory for Pfizer. And these two docs were concerned about what's called syncticin 1, and this is a protein that can affect the placenta and fertility. And I'm going to read to you the quote from the paper that they had presented. I'm sorry, the application that they had presented. So they presented this application to the European Medicine Agency to try and halt the trials. This was a couple of weeks ago. And obviously since then they've had executive orders to release these. But we thought this was important when it comes to thinking about fertility. So it says, the vaccinations, or the V's, are expected to produce antibodies against spike proteins of SARS-CoV-2. However, spike proteins also contain syncticin homologous proteins, which are essential for the formation of the placenta in mammals such as humans. It must be absolutely ruled out that a vaccine against SARS-CoV-2 could trigger an immune reaction against syncticin 1, as otherwise infertility of indefinite duration could result in V or vaccinated women. Okay, so what this is saying is that these doctors believe that the spike proteins contain a similar protein to what's called syncticin, and that syncticin is involved in the formation of placenta, as I mentioned. And so the concern is that these antibodies against the spike proteins may look so much like this syncticin protein that they have the same impact on fertility, making it impossible to become fertile and become pregnant. And so so that was the concern, and you know, it wasn't ruled out. And so
yeah, I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, that was really it. Just wanted to say that they made that point, and we wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that we haven't, you know, we released these into the society, and we've not tested for that or calculated that.
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody who is watching or might see this to know that there is information on both sides. There's some saying that the syncticin 1 protein will not, that this V will not affect fertility in that manner. And there's those who are saying that the possibility is there. And so what we wanted to bring to the table is that nobody really knows. And I read a pretty long paper on how it doesn't affect. And so again, we just want to be clear, even if it doesn't affect fertility due to, you know, the syncticin 1, there are still things that we don't know, you know, how could it, you know, and what we do know, what the data is showing is that, you know, going back to epigenetics changes in me. So if I had children, epigenetic changes in me can go essentially, it can affect 7 generations down. So that's a really, really long time, and it affects that can be these negative effects that affect our children's children, right? And so that's really the biggest point that we want to make is there are a lot of unknowns. We have no idea how this will affect our epigenome, because everything affects our epigenome, and then our, you know, kids' epigenomes. And we don't know, even though there is seems to be evidence on both sides showing it may or may not affect the placenta, you know, from the syncticin 1, we don't know because it's not been tested. And so again, it's just to bring, we want everybody to think through as much as possible, just as we're doing. I mean, we're learning as we go.
Yeah, exactly. And what would make us think that, we just want to think it through, if none of these other V's previous to this one have been tested for fertility, carcinogenic, mutagenic potential, or DNA potential for changes, and we know that this one has been rushed through the system, you know, we know that hasn't been tested either, right? So just like Nikki was saying. And the other thing that's important to know is that that our belief and our understanding is that they have skipped the animal trials in this round of new biologics, which makes us the animal trial, right? It makes us the study. And
yeah,
that's really,
we are the animals.
Really scary.
Right.
Yeah. There's also evidence, you know, that we can share if anyone's interested, just on a side note, that you know, these for rotaviruses have failed previously. You know, and when they did animal studies on ferrets, for example, you know, they did develop immune enhancement, and so anyway, there is we've seen some negative impact coming from previous V's that were designed similarly, and then this one is, you know, completely different product.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the other thing to know is just that, with pharmaceutical drugs, that they have the gold standard is to do a double-blind placebo-controlled study and to check to see if that drug is efficacious. We know that there is some corruption there because they are able to stop those trials midstream if something goes wrong, and they don't have to report that to the FDA. But when it comes to V's, they're in a completely different category called biologics. So they do not have near the rigorous studies or testing that are associated. And they also, because the manufacturers don't have any liability when and if their products harm or injure someone or kill them, they also don't have any incentive to make it any safer. So wanted to share that information.
Yeah, yeah. And two things I want to hit on. One, if you're, so we talked about the fact that there's no liability for these drug companies who produce these Vs or the biologics. There is no liability. I mean, they are safe essentially from, any harm that a V may cause. So you can go back to, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago that we talked about that. So if you want to know what all we said about it, then you can go back to there. And one of the things that you said, you were talking about immune enhancement, which can sound positive, right? Oh, yay. But I wanted to just hit on that real quick because it's really not positive, because if there's immune enhancement, and help me if I'm not saying this properly, but the immune enhancement, then from a V or a biologic, then what can happen when they get the actual virus, then they all died. The cats or the ferrets, they all died because it was sort of this crazy immune response, and it killed them. So in this case, immune enhancement is not a good thing.
Right. I'm not actually even saying the full word. I believe it's immune antibody enhancement. I might be saying it incorrectly, but yes, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, it wasn't a positive thing. They responded abnormally.
No. Yeah. I think one of the things, if I'm not jumping ahead, I don't think I am, is you may or may not have seen, though, that there are some drugs that have been found to be really efficacious and successful in treating this virus. And we've heard about a couple of them, and most of them are old. I mean, we've got, the problem is we've got all of these novel drugs and novel biologics, or Vs. I want to make sure that that those are sort of synonymous, the V and the biologic. And they're brand new with very little, if any, research. Then we have things like Ivermectin. And if you haven't heard this, I would tell you to look up the Senate hearing. And I can't remember.
We can post it maybe in our in the comments.
Yeah, we'll post it. I think it's really an emotional plea from this doctor who heads up research for this virus. And they have been using ivermectin. So if you don't know ivermectin, typically it's an anti-parasitic. We use it. I don't. This is a whole different conversation when it comes to our dogs and constant inundation of chemicals for them. But if you deworm your dogs, if you deworm your horses, if you're a farmer or a rancher and you deworm your animals, that's what ivermectin's used for. It's also used in humans. And in this Senate hearing, he talks about, and I can't remember the details, which I think is one of the reasons why it's important for any of you to see it, for everyone to see it, I think. But he talks about it won a Nobel Prize. I believe it was in like 2015 or something. It was fairly recent, for changing, for killing whatever this problem was. So this is why I should have watched it again before we did this. So because I'm not explaining myself well, but the point is, what he says is they're seeing that it absolutely obliterates this virus. It protects you. So if you take it prophylactically, it protects you. And then also if you get it, then it decreases the time. So it actually kills the virus. So considered an antiparasitic, but for whatever reason, unknown to me, I don't know, it is also seems to be antiviral. But you know, that's like things like coconut oil. They have all of those properties as well. Now, I'm not saying that coconut oil will kill this virus, but it is antiviral, antimicrobial. It's, you know, all of the things. So please don't take that out of context. Wouldn't that be funny?
Not necessarily interchangeable there. Yeah. Good point.
But it's a drug that's been around a really long time. And I also, you know, I was actually talking to my husband about it. He was like, would you take it? Absolutely, I would take it. And what my opinion, this is my opinion only, is that if we can give this, and well, and he says this too, but if we can give this to those who are truly in need, which are the elderly, the Black and the Hispanic population seem to be all hit the worst. And so if we can start to do this, I'm not a fan of drugs prophylactically unless it's absolutely necessary. And this might be a way of getting this under control. And so it seems like a much better scenario than giving these novel drugs and novel Vs that we don't know anything about. Now, there's also, I think we need to understand that it is a drug, it is something that we ingest, and it has also, just like everything else, has the potential to change our epigenome. And so, and how does that look? Well, at least we know that it's been around a really, really long time, and it is efficacious. So we'll post that. I think it's really important to see. You're not seeing it, as far as I know, you're not seeing it in mainstream media. Shocking. But I think it's an important one to see. And I actually have some friends who just recently contracted the virus, and they were given ivermectin. And so I know one is doing well, the other one's pretty sick, you know, but had they taken it sooner, you know, maybe that would have changed the outcome of the one who's a little bit sicker. So, but I believe they have done studies on, at this point, hundreds and hundreds. I don't know if we're in the thousands yet, but I think we have to be. I think it was a whole lot of patients that they've done these studies on, and they do have the data to back it up. And it's working on, if I remember this correctly, every single person. And I don't think they've had any deaths. I don't think, while they're using the ivermectin. So it's important to, I think it's a really important thing to consider. I mean, I certainly will.
Yeah, I think that's really promising, and to think that there are other options, right? That we don't all have to rely on this one biologic or these couple biologics that are out. And yeah, and I think to your point, you know, not saying that coconut oil, you know, in your example is interchangeable, but the point being that or what I picked out of that is that drugs are mimicking and trying to recreate what plants can do naturally, right? And we, you know, what we're trying to do here is try to impact the immune system. And whether it be with a biologic or a drug or vitamin C or anything else, that's the purpose. And so and so when we come back to things that are tried and true, and things that have lasted, you know, over years and years and centuries in some cases, when we think about plants, you know, to me, that's a better way to go, you know, if we can. And so, you know, when we think about the current situation, we've heard recently from the Surgeon General that they're saying that they want us to still continue to wear masks and still continue to distance from each other for however, no one knows how long, because the biologics or the Vs are only going to prevent illness, not prevent transmission, right? And so what that really means when you boil it down is we are trying to mask the symptoms. We are not preventing the disease. We're not doing anything that's going to, you know, prevent the spread. And so, which is, you know, seems to be a theme across a lot of medicine that we're suppressing symptoms instead of trying to understand what is causing those symptoms. And so, and epigenetics, is a perfect example of this, because like Nikki said in the beginning, it's anything that you put into your system or around you is going to influence your health outcome. And so, would ivermectin be efficacious, or would a biologic be efficacious? Possibly, and maybe so. But we want to encourage you to work together to address the reason why you might be sick in the first place. And so, one of your friends that got the ivermectin, one of them's doing well and one of them's not doing well. Well, what is the situation of the one that's not doing well? How do they live their life? What are they eating? Are they exercising? What's their vitamin D level? All those things that impact the immune system and the epigenome, so that when they get that immunization or that drug or that biologic or whatever it might be, it's going to have a different impact on their system than the person next to them because of epigenetics, right? And so we just wanted to encourage you and empower you that there are so many things that are tried and true and trusted, that don't have side effects, and that we do know more about, which is nutrition and exercise and sleep and community and nature and purpose and love, and all of these things that that support our body and support our immune system and help us be well. And so I would rather go that route than, when I think about what, Pfizer's been involved in, and their billions of dollars of lawsuits that they've had to pay out for scandals. I'm thinking I'm going to go back towards what nature has to provide. I want everybody to ask themselves a question, anybody that's a believer, why did God not see fit to put the vaccine inside our bodies? If that is what we needed, and that was what was going to help us to thrive and to live a life, of service and purpose, and to be healthy and well, why did God not decide to give us that? And that's, just a question that for any believer to ponder.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. There's, something that I'll say a lot, and you probably do too, is, when we're dealing with depression, right? It's not a deficiency of Prozac. So, those are the things that we want to think about. And again, it goes back to, we are not, anti-V or anti-biologic. We're not anti-drug. We're not anti any of these things. I think it's what our goal is to really, for one, say the things that mainstream media and mainstream medicine aren't saying. Take care of your body, take care of your immune system, have your labs checked so you know where your vitamin D is, and do all the things that you can do to protect yourself, because probably, our time will come and we'll get it. And I'm doing all the things I hope that are helping to protect me. So if I do get it, then my symptoms hopefully will be minimal. And that's fine. I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like. And I've surrounded by it at this point, from all over the place. Is kind of interesting, but I'm doing, as far as I know, all of the things that I can do to be strong. So be strong physically, immunologically, is that a word? Spiritually, mentally, all of the things. And I really am, focusing on that, at this point. And that's what we hope to bring to the table, is just to help you do your best for yourself. And then of course, do your best for your family. And that's how we start to take care of our communities, by taking care of ourselves. If we all think, okay, I'm going to take care of myself, I'm going to take care of my family, then we start to get healthy, and create strong immune system. And
because it's germ theory versus terrain theory, and we won't get all into it today, but just what you're saying, Nikki, If you come in contact with a toxin or a microbe of any kind, it's about your terrain in your body. It's about what is happening in your body as to whether or not that will affect you negatively or not. You know, we have many viruses that live inside of us. We have, you know, a whole virome. And they're everywhere. And so it's coming back to epigenetics, and what we do in our life determines our terrain. It's not about the germ that's hanging around, you know, in the world and whether or not that we come in contact with it. It's what are we doing for our body to support this vessel and this machine and this beautiful entity to come in contact with these things, because we were always meant to come in contact with bugs. You know, we always have, we always will. We develop, you know, because of our relationship, not in spite of our relationship. And so it's just like you're saying, taking personal responsibility for your health and the health of your loved ones would have the most profound impact, no matter what it is, whatever, you know, virus, plague, whatever we come in contact with. That's the answer, is to, in my opinion, you know, to come back to that. You know, these drugs and these things can be helpful, you know, and hopefully they will be, you know, for a lot of people. But the emphasis is on safety, and when we say safety, the world is not a safe place, right? There's always risks. Every day we have risks. That's part of life. So I don't mean safety from that angle. I mean safety in terms of testing things and doing studies and research to know how what we're promoting is going to impact or affect someone's health. So
yeah,
hope I made that clear.
great.
But
Yeah, no, I think that was a great point. And I think it's a great place to end.
yes,
You know, again, we believe in medical freedom. You have
yes,
your choice, you make your choices in all areas. And we also believe in informed consent.
yes,
And that's really what we're trying to do, is just what we learn is we want to inform. You know, we're not doctors, and this is all just it's just us talking. It's not medical advice. You know, we have to say that, but it's true. It's not medical advice. You know, for medical advice, you go see your doctor, but we want to bring as much awareness around this stuff as we can, and as much truth around it as we can. And there are many sides, and you know, it's really hard to decipher for us and for everybody. I think it is. But again, we're going to bring what we have in our knowledge and the truth to the best of our ability.
And something that's on my heart that I just want to share. Yes, exactly. And that's what we're doing. And it's important that we tell you that this is not medical advice, and that we're just using this, you know, for education. And no one has a monopoly on education. And so I don't care if you're not in the health industry or health field or anything. We're not, you know, some experts, right? We learn and we grow and we build our knowledge. But I want to encourage and empower everyone out there that's listening. You don't have to meet with a healthcare professional or a doctor or a surgeon or a researcher, epidemiologist, or any of these titles to understand what's going on, right? And so we are here to provide a service to you, and we love what we do, and we want to share. We want to give you the information that you want. And I also just wanted to reiterate that you are the best expert of yourself, and that no one has a monopoly on any of this education. And so we don't have to rely on people with, you know, lots of letters after their name to tell us what is true. We can learn and grow ourselves.
You have lots of letters behind you.
I know I do. And I'm very proud of those letters, and I worked hard for those letters, and they do give me, you know, some you know, some cred, right? And some, you know, some authority in some fields, but I want to encourage everybody listening that just because you didn't go that route doesn't mean that you don't have the ability or the information available to you to learn just as much, or to be able to share with others. So I hope that's encouraging for everybody. out
Yep.
there. We believe in you and we love you and we want good things for all of us. And so that's how we grow is we learn and we evolve.
True. It's true. Okay, so you can we'll let this go for now. We'll be on again. I don't know when. We were doing first Friday of every month, and I think we have so much that we want to talk about that we're just kind of trying to get it in when and where we can.
Yeah.
So, but we'll always let you know. Feel free to jump in to educate us. If it's backed by science, that's great because that's what we want. But if you have questions, we're happy to answer questions. All my information is Taste Life Nutrition website, social media. So feel free to reach out. And Gabrielle, you are Gabrielle Grandel.
That's right. Yeah. So same thing. And then you can find me on the website at livingwelldallas.com. And the phone number there is 972-930-0260 if you'd like to do a free phone call, a short phone call to see if it's a good fit to work together or if I can help you in any way.
Yep. I do the same. So reach out, let us know what we can do to help, and we'll see you again soon. Just don't know when yet.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good day. Take care of yourself.